Well, I think one misperception is, and it doesn't only happen in China, it also happens in the States, and it also happens in Europe, that people really don't understand what free speech actually is. That is only the right of the citizens to, and not to say anything at any time, anywhere, to anybody,
Right.
but like a limited thing that is as limited as it is. It's awesome. And if you go the European way and you say, okay, it's going to be a little bit more limited, but it's going to be clear, the limitation, that's also okay. I mean, you can go this way or that way. The Chinese way, where it's all kind of mushy and you never know where you stand, I find it very, very, very difficult, because you never have that feeling of safety. But it sure doesn't mean that if Twitter deactivates your account, you don't have free speech anymore. Or if I block you on Twitter. This happens all the time. I block a person on whatever, and they're like, what about my free speech? I'm like, you really don't understand the concept of free speech. It doesn't mean yelling at me.
Yes, exactly. My goodness. And also, they're a private company. People need to understand that. Like, come on.
Yes.
Emphasis. Private companies are not privy to the constitutional restraints, except for the 13th or 14th Amendment saying you can't like discriminate against like and the equal rights protection. So in the civil rights movement. But other than that, it only applies to government. It drives me crazy, and it seems like it drives you crazy too.
It does, and it feels like, especially when people come from China and they maybe they scale the wall virtually or physically, and they come into this outside space and they're like, what's happening here? This is not free speech. You know, this is what they keep telling me. It's like, I'm coming over this wall, the Great Firewall. I'm outside now, and now I can't say the N word, and I can't say the B word, and I can't say the F word, and I can't say this, and I can't say that, and my account gets blocked just because I have 0 followers, and I was just saying the N word 1,000 times. What the hell? This is not free speech. It's even worse than in there, because honestly, in China on the internet, you can say all kinds of bad words. It doesn't matter. You can say the B word as much as you want. It's fine. Just don't say anything about the emperor.
Exactly.
So yeah, so that's when it gets really like you're at a very basic level in saying like, do I want to expend the energy to make this person potentially understand what they're even talking about?
I always try. I like because you have way more fans than I do, and and I only have like a couple of hundred, so I like get like I only get like 1 or 2 trolls per week, and
Yeah.
I really try to engage them because I can tell they're from China and they're spouting Chinese. I don't know if they're getting paid or what, and and at the end, it always ends up either amicable or they're like, I don't want to talk to you anymore because you're not fun to talk to. And I'm like, that's the best result that I can get.
Sure.
But going back to what you were saying, so this whole cancel culture thing, right? So the government's not canceling you, right? It's everyone else that's canceling you. And I kind of want to speak a little bit about that. So this is a huge issue. I don't know if in Europe, it's a huge issue in America right now, this cancel culture thing. Or at least it is for Republicans, because they tend, the people that like kind of control like the cancel culture are more like on the left side or whatever. Um, a lot of people believe that cancel culture is the result of the anti-bullying policies in the 80s. I'm sorry, not in the 80s, after the 90s, and where it was like if you bully one time, it was 1 strike and you're out. And now these people are adults now, and I think that
Oh,
I think that concept of that 1 strike and you're out is the driving force behind cancel culture, or a contributing factor at least. And then also speaking, just going back when you were talking about the ambiguity, right? Not like hey, it's okay to have limited free speech, but let us know the rules, let us know the parameters, right? Like China, I interviewed a former official of the United States Department of Defense last week, and we had a discussion about something like this. And he was saying, his name is Drew Thompson. He was saying that China actually employs like this ambiguity on purpose. So for instance, in the South China Sea, right? Other countries have been just saying, China, what are you trying to claim? Let us know and we can discuss and negotiate it. And they refuse to clarify and let the international community know what they are claiming. So that to me is like you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to claim it, but tell us about it, please, so we can like figure it out, you know, and not have this issue. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about this?
Oh, I think it's definitely by design.
Right.
It works internally, and because it's working so well internally, it's now going to work externally as well.
Right.
Having to set rules that then people might ask you to abide by is the best thing for them. There are no rules. There's just my word at any given time. That's why I said there is no line. If somebody tells you about this thin red line or something, that's a concept that isn't there. It's more like a red space. You know, like you're in that space anyway, kind of.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, you're safe off the line. No, there is no line. I used to use this exact metaphor of the line. But there is no line. I was wrong. It's
Wow.
just a.
Yeah, no, because I always hear that if you need to toe the line, you have to be very sensitive and toe the line. So but then I guess if you don't know what the line is, then how are you going to toe the line anyway?
If there is no line, how are you
Right.
going to talk? If it's just kind of an area where you're in it anyway, and if they want to catch you, they can catch you. If they don't, they don't. But it's not like you can stay in a safe place and be like, well, I'm, you know, like the floor is lava.
Yes.
Yeah, you are never on the couch.
Wait, we should explain what that is.
Okay.
The game. It's a game.
Yeah.
Do you want to go explain what that is?
Well, the way I understand it is it's something you play with your siblings or your friends, where you go onto the couch or on the table or whatever, and you say, I'm not going to touch the floor anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever the floor first loses because they touched the lava. The floor is lava.
Right.
Well, yeah, in China, you're never on the couch. You're never on a safe space. You're always on the lava anyway.
Or you're always just this close to the lava.
No. You're in the lava. You're in the lava.
Oh, goodness gracious.
You're in the lava, but nobody's calling you out. That's it. But you're in the lava. You know it, and everybody else knows, and everybody's in the lava.
Yeah. And it's definitely one of the biggest reasons why my father and many people want to leave China is because you can have skill, you can have talent, right? And you can have business acumen and everything. But if you can't reach your potential in China, you just can't. You know, you're very limited. And also because of like everything I said before about like the benefits of having free speech, it's like I feel like because they don't have that, like how are they going to come up with like, you know, inventions and
I wouldn't say that. They come up with a lot of inventions. Really.
or be like creative, you know,
They are creative.
in a completely like original way.
They are. Look at like who makes drones better than the Chinese? They landed on Mars.
Right.
I mean, with a drone, but
that was like a copy.
No. I'd say the time of talking about Shanzhai, you know Shanzhai, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this Shanzhai culture was maybe 20 years ago, when they were basically what China did 20 years ago was you have a phone, and then China makes a cheap clone of the phone, and then they add stuff to it. Maybe like you need 2 SIM cards or something else, maybe a longer antenna or some stuff like that. And you're like, whoa, this clone, albeit being inferior to the original, but it has some additional features that are kind of fun. And that's the Chinese thing. But then, I mean, a Huawei phone is a good phone. It's not like they're just copying stuff. They're actually like doing good shit. And like DJI as a drone manufacturer, I don't know if there's any company that makes better drones than them for the consumer market, really. Like they are highly creative. They have all this potential. It's just very dangerous because you never know if somebody's going to say, hey, you're in lava. Because you are in the lava, you know? And so like you're as long as nobody says something, you're fine in the lava. But because it's just the floor. But if somebody decides, you know, now we're going to say this is actually lava, then it's lava.
So it's just my experience with like this whole thing. It's just because like, you know, in Chinese culture, right, you're always being told what to do by your elders. And that's like a very like in Confucianism, kind of like a relic of Confucianism, right? So they're directing your entire life, basically, you know. And for me, at least, it was hard to actually think for myself and form
Of
my
course.
opinions until I got to law school, and I really, really struggled. And I was very, very quiet in school because I just didn't have any opinions. I'm not sure if I was scared to have opinions or if I just didn't have any opinions because I was so ignorant and I didn't know anything. But I just like, and maybe this is totally anecdotal and totally personal, and maybe I shouldn't project that onto the entire Chinese community. But my, you know, my Chinese classmates, like in law school and, you know, college, whatever, we're all similarly very quiet.
Mm.
So I don't know why it's like that. I just know that it is. I'm not saying every Chinese person is quiet, but like, for instance, the international students that come over here, like they keep to themselves. They don't talk to the rest of the college. They don't enjoy the full college experience. They have their the Chinese international student experience, which is they all huddle together. They do this, you know, they eat pao fan, and they might as well be in China, but they're in an American university, you know? So I don't know. I see what you're saying, and to me, it seems more like that Japanese model of like taking something that's technology that exists and bettering it. But to your point, though, I do think that China could be amazing. That China, like if the CCP got out of the way, I think that the Chinese people can create some of the most amazing art, right? Some of the most amazing, I don't know about vengeance, but like, I'm sure they can, because like the more I speak to Chinese people, the more I realize how incredibly like smart and hardworking and how like, you know, how industrious they are. And like Lawrence and I were talking about this, right? He was showing me like all these like talented rappers on the show that like this Chinese show is like it's like what is it?
Yeah.
Like American Idol kind of thing. And
So,
this Xinjiang rapper, he won, and there was a big scandal with him, and the CCP shut it down. But like now, the whole world is missing out on this amazing music, right? It's just so cool, and like there's like amazing art that comes out of China, and and I think that's because of the CCP repressing it, right? That's so
yeah.
I think that's more of what I'm trying to say. It's not like I don't think that Chinese people have it in them. I just think that it can't be expressed.
I think I would probably qualify that statement a little bit. I would say it's a bit similar to the East German experience. You know, Merkel, German Chancellor, what did she do? I'm always confused. Did she do physics or chemistry? I think she did physics, and she got like a PhD or something. The reason, this is maybe apocryphal, but this was a common thing in East Germany. The reason why she went into physics was because if you go into like the basically STEM stuff, then you're pretty safe because they're not ideologically as you know, heavy as like if she was going to do literature, history, anything in politics, sociology, they would always ask her for the party line. But doing physics, it's kind of like, you know, the atom doesn't really care. It's like it's still an atom.
Right.
And I think Chinese tech stuff is amazing. I mean, really, like they've been catching up. They've been overtaking in a lot of things. Chinese like programming and app stuff, all of these tech-oriented things, they're really amazing. Chinese artists are amazing when they have a space to work in. Maybe they go abroad and they work on something that isn't going to get their families in trouble. But I think it's all there. And I think if people tell you about like Confucianism, I really don't know how much that holds water because, yeah, Confucius, sure, and like 2,000 years, whatever. But like, would that be something to measure Europeans by? Would we really go like, well, Roman law or like Greek philosophy or like Judeo-Christian religious background? That's why you're this way. No, we would probably talk about, and we would have a more nuanced picture of like what happened in the last, let's say, 500 years. Reformation happened. I don't know, peasant wars happened, enlightenment happened, a bunch of isms happened, Nazism happened, and all this stuff happened. And now we have a very diverse young culture in Europe. And I think that we should have the same kind of perspective on Chinese people. I mean, after the Cultural Revolution and young people literally taking their teachers into the schoolyard and beating them to death, it's very difficult to talk about Confucianism in this context.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely. I mean, gosh, the Cultural Revolution. Ever since you started talking to me about the Cultural Revolution, I've been trying to learn more about it because honestly, like it's never been on my radar. I know it happened. I know it was bad. I know, my grandfather's factories got taken away, but I just didn't know the extent of it. And it just like, remember I was telling you that it's amazing to me and it kills me that you know more about it than I do, and that's one of the results of like not having like the free speech and like having the CCP control the narrative and everything like that. Well, I'll tell you.
Not only there is something to soften the blow there. It's
Okay.
very for me to run into foreign students that kind of study something, I don't know, maybe German or German literature or whatever, and they are much more informed on Germany than I am.
Huh.
They might be from Italy, they might be from China or from Japan, but they have been to all these historical places. They know exactly what happened where. They're super into it. And when I talk to them, I'm kind of the anthropological material. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I've been to Weimar, but like, I remember I went to a titty bar in Weimar, but be like, what are you doing? It's Weimar. I've been there 10 times. And it's like so amazing. It's, I don't know, if you really put your heart into studying something, it's different than just living there. How many people in Beijing have never been to the Great Wall?
Yeah.
Because it's there. When are you going to go there? It's there. You can go there anytime. But a foreigner, that's going to be the third day or something.
Yeah. But like if not like for foreigners coming in and like studying these things and kind of like telling us young generation about it, we're not gonna, like you said, we're not gonna hear it from our families, and we're not gonna, and that now you have, that's dangerous to me because I constantly butt heads with my friends here that are ABCs, American born Chinese. Yeah, and they because I'm on Facebook and I'm very vocal about being anti-CCP, and I've been like that since I was very young, like I was 5, and I'm like, the CCP is terrible, so everyone knows that I'm the anti-CCP girl on Facebook, and I will get calls, I will get posts, I will get comments and messages by my ABC friends who tell me to stop being racist, to that China's not that bad, and like give me all these examples and all that, and it's just because they've like are already so far removed from China to like know about it. But to go back to what you were saying, I completely agree with what you're saying, because it's easier for an outsider to observe what's going on in the inside, because when you're in the inside, everything is normal, right? Because that's all you know.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know if it's easier, but it's definitely, if you set your mind on studying a place, I mean, you're going to put a lot of effort into it. But if you just kind of live there, it's just what it is. It's kind of around you. Yeah, like you're saying, basically that's it. Yeah, you're like, okay, this is the reality here. But for an outsider, if I have to study the language as hard as I did,
yeah,
then I'm going to put in a lot of effort to get everything kind of at least as much as I can to soak it up. But for a Chinese person, it's going like, yeah, okay, what does knowing about this cultural evolution help you in any way?
Yes, that is the exact reaction I get from almost everyone that I speak to, you know, like the fans and everything. It's like, 跟我们是什么关系? Like, what does it have to do with us? If this isn't going to help me make more money, I don't care, you
I
know?
don't, I
And
don't even know if it's money. It's not only money. It's also, I mean, kind of personal development, maybe kind of knowing where you are in the world. It doesn't really help you that much. It just makes your life worse, doesn't it?
yeah,
They're not wrong.
yeah, like I talk to them about like humanitarian things, and there's just you know, less concern about stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
because because they know that they're standing on the floor, and the floor can become lava.
right,
That's what they know.
right,
That's what they know. Yes, but you're actually on the couch.
yeah, that's
You
true.
are, and I am. We're on the couch and we're like, it's fine. You know, it's fine. We're going to talk about the floor and about the house and about everything. But they're on the floor already. Just nobody has called it lava yet. And so it just makes you never feel safe. And then, you know, in this kind of situation, what are you going to do? Read a bunch of books about the cultural evolution and then talk to your dad who's going to hate you for it? Or worse yet, you're going to actually persuade him, and then he's going to be unhappy in his life. Because wow, now he has seen the light, but he's still there. He still has got to go drinking with the same guys. It's not good.
So
Nothing good of it.
Lale, so here's a very tough question for you, and now I will think about it myself. As somebody as empathetic as you know, and you are, you know, super insightful, empathetic, and you have love for the Chinese people, like, what's the best way you see out of this quagmire? I know you say it's so difficult, but like, you know, as someone who cares about China and the Chinese people, right? Like what are the beginning steps that like anyone could take to start to
Uh,
I don't know, to help to resolve this stuff, you know, because China's 1/5 of the population, right? We're going to have to interact with Chinese people eventually anyway. Our kids will, if you plan to have kids, you know, our audience members plan to have kids, like it can't just be we are going to just decouple and not talk to each other forever. I mean, like, what's the solution? Or the first
um,
steps, because the solution's hard.
I think one thing that would help, and it's not something that you can just do by yourself, but you can do a little bit for it, I think, is there has to be more education about China for people that live outside. And we have to get rid of this detached feeling of, let's call it some sort of superiority. You know, like basically emblematic in the whole reaction to COVID-19, where they were having this disaster in Wuhan, and we're like, oh, look at them, funny Asians coughing and dying. That's not going to affect us. That's an Asian thing. And then we get it. And we are not serious until Italy gets it, which is finally when we wake up and we're like, oh, white people can die too. Cool. Like now it's serious. But why wasn't it serious before? Because it was just Asians, if we're being honest. So I think kind of understanding that we're in this together, this is really like kind of cheesy, but I think a lot of people, it would help if we promoted Chinese studies, sinology, and we didn't rely on Confucius institutes and the Communist Party to do that for us. We actually pumped in money and educated our dudes and our women to understand what's going on there. And on the other hand, it would be good if we sold ourselves a little bit better, because one thing that I see a lot from Chinese visitors is, you know, in Chinese cities like Beijing or Shanghai, you're not going to have the junkies, the petty crime, the dirt, the spray, the graffiti, and like the homeless people at the main train station, and they're not going to be in the pedestrian zone. They're going to be, they exist, obviously. It's China, it's a huge place, and all kinds of things exist. They have huge drug problems, everything, but they try to make the inner city as presentable as possible, and they have the means to actually kick people out. So that means when Chinese people come from those places to, let's say, New York, they're like, what the hell is going on here? Your subway looks like shit, and it smells like pee, and it's full of poor people. I don't think this means we should kick the poor people out.
No.
I don't think, but I think we should probably clean up the subway, maybe make it not so much smell like piss, because neoliberalism has been pretty fun for a few select people at the top, but it's also kind of, you know, been really draining on our infrastructure, and then it gets hard to compete with places that are up and coming. It's kind of like we bought a nice iPhone 20 years ago,
yeah,
but they're in the new Huawei now. Now, who has the better phone? They have the better phone.
They do.
Yeah, even though the phone was good when we bought it, but you never upgraded. So that's one thing. And the other thing is to make them understand that even if we have homeless people, and even if we have junkies and petty crime and all of this, the things we were talking about, like your free speech being clear, it being clear what is floor and what is lava and what is the couch, these things are actually nice. You're not going to see them. They're not tangible as a tourist. It's not like you come to New York and you're like, wow, I have free speech now. No, you're thinking like, I'm seeing the I don't know, the MoMA or the subway or stuff like that. But it would be good if we sold this stuff a little bit better, because I often think like we're trying to compete on stuff we're really not very good at competing. Like who has a bigger building or the longest highway or like the biggest bridge or whatever. No, they're going to win. They're just building this stuff now. They're going to get their asses handed to them by India in 20 years when they start building their stuff.
Yes. Absolutely.
This is something, I think the other thing, if it comes down to the macro, like the very small micro level, I guess, I keep telling the people on my channel all the time to make sure that in their circle of friends and family that they value, that maybe they spread a little bit of their, let's say, just their values. That's it. Maybe not even so much like truth or knowledge or whatever, just values.